This is my 1988 Ford Ranger that I've owned for the last 4 years and 50,000 miles, and today we're going to talk about my ownership of it and what's to come. So yes, it's official. I've actually owned this Ford Ranger for 4 years now and around 54,000 miles or so, and it's been a fairly fun daily driver since then. A lot has happened in the last 4 years, as a lot of you have seen throughout the videos of my channel, but we're going to go and take a little recap of everything just because I want to kind of make a true final video for this truck, considering the tour that I made wasn't all inclusive of everything that's happened over the past 4 years. And we'll go ahead and have a seat in the truck and get started. So back in August 22nd or so, 2014, my dad was like, hey, get in the car right after I got off of college class, and we drove up to, I think, somewhere in West County, St. Louis, to buy this 1998 Ford Ranger, which we bought for $3,000 or $2,900, something like that. And yes, it was a graduation present to me, before anybody's asking or anything. For high school graduation, we bought it for just under $3,000. Had 143,172 miles on it. I remember that exactly to a T. Now it has 197,720 miles, and it's a little bit different from when it was back then. So to get started on my ownership, so much has happened with this truck that I can't even remember all of it. Most likely, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk about every single thing that's happened in the past 4 years, but I'll try my best. And I do remember a lot of the bigger stuff, bigger repairs, bigger things that have happened. Really, the first thing that I did with this truck was, of course, just drive it. I drove it a lot early on. I drove it even more in 2015 or so. I drove like 20,000 miles just in 2015 alone. So nothing really happened with this truck whenever I first got it, because I didn't really have money to modify it or really do anything at all with it. And the first thing of note that happened to this truck was me running into a ditch, or not in a ditch, into a creek that was frozen, because I was trying to drive to a college class in like December of 2014. Went to get on the highway, and where I was getting on the highway, the on-ramp, you turn right onto it pretty hard, and then it makes an instant left. I had made the right, hit a patch of ice, slid sideways, got it corrected, but I was off the road by then and ended up sliding straight into a frozen creek, a man-made creek of some sort, and had to call a tow truck to get pulled out, because there was no way I could have made it out, because the rear bumper was sitting on the bank of the creek and the front bumper was almost to the other side. So I just had him pull it out, which explains why on the back there is, on the rear bumper, there's a bunch of that plastic or whatever in the center of it is like all chewed up in the middle. Yeah, that's why that's happened. The only thing that happened with that, only other thing, was the front valance got ripped off, because there were some trees, like, you know, probably this big around, that I ran over on the way into the creek, and ended up ripping it off whenever they pulled it back out, because they got stuck underneath the truck, and so on and so forth. That was not a fun day, especially because I missed like an hour of one of my classes. I think the first modification I made to this truck were some very, very cheap and okay looking blacked out marker lights on the front, which you may have, actually I think, no. Wow, I'm having a hard time remembering hardly anything that I've done with this truck, or any specifics. But I bought those for like $30 or something, installed them. They started falling apart, and then, actually, before I talk about the big thing that happened, I actually took this up, I guess, in the middle of 2015. I actually ended up autocrossing this truck, which I have videos up on my channel from like I said, July 2015, where I actually did legitimately take this truck through an autocross up at Gateway Motorsports Park for the Fun Ford weekend back then, and it was a lot of fun. I was fairly close to some guys in a Ford Focus SVT time-wise, and I will happily accept that, because I hadn't really been driving stick shift for that long. Also, this was the first vehicle I ever really drove stick shift in, other than a Dodge diesel truck. Fun fact. I basically learned how to drive stick. Well, I knew the basics, but I didn't actually know really how to, because I'd never driven really on the road at all. So this truck actually introduced me to driving on the road, and driving more than a few feet on some gravel road in stick shift. But anyways, so the autocross was fun, and then you'll notice that in those videos I had the aftermarket lights on the front, and shortly after that, I got into my one and only car accident that involved another car. So, I'm trying to make it short, but basically I was driving through a parking lot, and there were parking spaces like here, and there was a road that came up, and then it split off, it made a T into some, like, right at some parking spots. And a girl in a Mazda 626 Millennia, some early 2000s Mazda sedan, I can't remember exactly which one it was, thought that a freshly paved patch of the parking lot was a road that was only about a car width and a half wide. Obviously it was not, and I wasn't paying attention straight in front of me because she was coming from straight in front of me. I looked to the right, looked to the left, looked to the right again because I got distracted with a car that was backing up, and went to make the left, and we met fenders, basically. And that is why, to this day, there is still a primered fender and a primered bumper and a black grille on this truck. It used to have all chrome on the front, and now it does not, because I was like, oh, I'll just buy new stuff and I'll get it painted. It never got painted. I'm going to make one more video of this truck after this, that I just remembered. And that is going to be actually tidying everything up. I'm going to try and fix the injector problem. I'm going to fix, or try and find new body parts for the front so it doesn't look as awful. Actually, like, really clean it, not just wash it, and basically call it quits after that. But anyways, back to the main topic of this video. And so, that was the accident I had. I think her car ended up a lot worse than mine, but I couldn't drive my truck out of the parking lot because it bent the left side of my bumper in enough to where if I turned right at all, the tire would hit the bumper. So I couldn't turn right at all. And I had to wait for my uncle to get there with a chain in his truck to basically bend the bumper out enough to where I could actually turn. I actually need to like look at my phone because I need to look at when I uploaded videos. I think I went to, well, I know I went to Roadkill, well, no, I went to Roadkill Nights in 2016. I can't remember if anything happened. Let's see. Let's have a look through my videos, shall we? Alright, so I can't go too far back in my videos, but next thing I remember happening with this truck was taking it on a, well, I took it on the road trip to Chicago, of course, and back in one day. That was fun. Drove 650 miles in a day in this thing. That wasn't actually that fun. Very, very uncomfortable. Did I stop recording? No, I didn't. It hit my camera. I don't know. That wasn't really exciting though. There was nothing besides the fact that I drove to Chicago and back. I keep swinging my camera a little bit. Nothing else really happened. But the big road trip that I did, well, not the really big road trip, but a fairly big road trip I did shortly thereafter somewhere was going to Roadkill Nights in Kansas City in 2016 at some point. I don't remember exactly when it was. Look at my stupid haircut. Let's see if you can see it. I'm not going to play my voice because I don't want to hear myself talk. So I went to Roadkill Nights in Kansas City in June of 2016, and I had a radiator leak, and I replaced the air conditioning condenser in this thing, but the AC still wouldn't hold the charge because there's a leak somewhere inside the cab here, which I wouldn't wouldn't mind fixing before I tried to sell it, just to try and get the AC to work because that's a pretty big thing, especially around here, even though it's not going to be summer for very much longer. But that was about it for that. That's also when I installed this stupid shift knob here. Oh, it was after I went to Roadkill Nights that I replaced the radiator, I guess, because the video came out afterwards. The next thing I did, which is one of my most popular videos at the moment for whatever reason, was I replaced the brake lights and backup lights in this thing with LEDs because I thought they looked better, and I'm pretty sure they did. They've worked ever since then. They haven't had any issues or anything, so attempt to do with my Lexus. I'm probably going to do it sometime soonish, probably after I sell this thing and I get some money back. But it was a nice little modification. It's not very expensive, not very hard to do. Replace the hood, which was fun because the hood was bent up, the old hood. Not because of me, because the whole front end of this thing was screwed up whenever I got it from the previous owner. Looks like they ran through all kinds of stuff and then tried to fix it with duct tape for whatever reason. whatever. There's my project car, which I still have. Get my project car to run. An update video. Q&A video. Okay, so the next thing, at least via videos on my channel, was the fact that the alternator went out on this truck. I thought it was a battery, replaced the battery first, and then replaced the alternator after figuring it out, which I also replaced the alternator in my driveway, in the gravel driveway, you know, up there, in the dark, without hardly knowing what I'm doing. But it worked, and it hasn't, I haven't had to touch it since then, and that was well over a year ago. I did not want to click on a Hoovie's Garage video. Not too incredibly exciting. So, and then the next topic, at least according to videos, was about the transmission. I keep zooming my camera. The transmission of this thing had some issues. Even since I got it, it had some weird issues with like not being able to push a clutch in, while not being able to put the car or the truck in the gear easily. The clutch being weird, but not being worn out. So I didn't know what it was for the longest time, and it got to a point where I could not shift it into first gear at all. I had to actually start the truck in first gear, and it was actually moving itself while I was pushing the clutch all the way down. So we ended up finding out that it was the clutch master cylinder and the slave cylinder had went bad, and that was a fun, like, 2-week thing trying to fix that. I also replaced the front brakes in this thing too a long time ago. Forgot about that. That wasn't very exciting though. But yeah, that transmission job literally took 2 weeks. It was my truck sitting in the garage and being worked on and removing the entire transmission out of the truck. Yeah, that was fun. And I think that was all I mainly did with that. Ranger got the Misfire a year ago. So it got the Misfire at 185,000 miles, or somewhere around there. It currently has 197,000 miles and it still has a Misfire. Obviously I care a lot. I've already done a tune-up on it. Well, not a full tune-up. I did replace the fuel filter, fuel pump. Oh, the fuel pump went out a long time ago. Shortly after I started working at Moto Exotica, the fuel pump went out and just left me. That was one time, well, one of 2 times it left me stranded. The other time was after we fixed the transmission. The clutch line popped off and I couldn't push down the clutch anymore, so I had to get it towed back to my house after that. That's the only 2 times this truck has ever left me stranded anywhere, for any reason. But yeah, the Misfire started about 11,000 miles ago, 12,000 miles ago, and I still haven't fixed it yet, because obviously I'm good at doing things and I'm good at fixing things, and not really. There's my video of like, I'm gonna start a project and make this thing a luxury vehicle, and I was like, I don't want to do that because it's gonna cost money, and I also bought a Lexus, so therefore there's no use to make this anything interesting. Other than that, there's not really anything to talk about much newer, because I got my Lexus shortly after that, kind of shortly. That's been my ownership experience of driving my 1998 Ford Ranger for 54,465 miles? 8 miles? Somewhere around there. And I have to say I did enjoy it. I have enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun to drive, of course. I've been driving it recently, actually, because my Lexus is the heavy boat, and my drive to work is a constant, it's like 65 turns in 8 miles or something. And I should actually count that at some point, because it's just constantly short or sharp turns. But it's time to get moving with my life. I need to work on my project car. I need money for my project car. And I have really no use for this much anymore. I have used it a little bit recently just for random truck things, but for the most part I haven't been doing much with it. And I don't know, it's kind of sad, but I know I'll probably regret being like, oh, I want to sell this, and then I'll be like, oh no, I shouldn't have sold it because blah blah reason, because sentiment. But future me, shut up. I know everything might work out fine in the future, but you can always find another Ranger. Can't find another Chrysler TC by Maserati with a 5-speed easily for as little money as I've put in that one so far. So that will conclude this video. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about anything I've talked about in this video, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, it will be kind of an end of an era whenever I sell this thing, but I have a whole big thing planned out for sometime soon. There's gonna be a lot of changes soon. Not just selling this. Lots of cool stuff happening. So thank you all so much for watching this video, and for now, I'm out of here. See ya.